It is July 9th, 2025. And you've probably already heard Epstein officially did nothing wrong. Plus, I have seen the face of Big Cloud. This is Inverted World Live. Oh boy, it's good to be back in the studio. We're live. We're really here. It's official. It's good to be back after a few days off. Appreciate you guys tuning in for those pre-recorded episodes that we had for you. Maybe we'll talk about those just a little bit today. But this is Inverted World Live, and I am your host, Shane Cashman. And this is a call-in show. For those who don't know, the phone lines are open. The link to call in is pinned in the chat, I guess to the right, Brandon?
It's either to the right or to the
right.
bottom.
I've been saying below, but I've learned that it is actually to the right. So hit that link, call in if you got a weird story to share with us, some strange encounter, something you can't explain. We've had stories of missing time, UFOs, cryptids, we've run the whole gamut. And if you've got something you want to share with us, give us a call. We'll get to your calls in about 30 minutes. Or if you've heard us say something that you want to discuss, give us a call. It's audio only, and we'll be here till midnight. And I am joined by Brandon. What's up?
What's up, Shane? What's up, everybody? Welcome back. What a weekend.
What a weekend indeed. A little things here and there were happening in the news, and it was weird to be gone while they were happening. I'm like, oh man. But we had these two pre-recorded episodes. It was really fun to talk to Mr. Javich about the Zapruder film, and I hope you guys enjoyed that one. And then we had on a gentleman by the name of Sergeant Peyton, who you guys got to see us discuss about the Fourth Reich beneath Antarctica and Hitler on Mars. And some of you liked it, and some of you didn't. We had a good time recording it. Some of you guys are hitting me up saying that he is not well mentally. But I gotta tell you, he sends me just very nice messages behind the scenes. So he can at least put together some beautiful sentences, and he's a kind man behind the scenes. So thank you guys for tuning into both those episodes. But my goodness, Jeffrey Epstein had no clients, has been innocent this whole time. I don't know why Ghislaine Maxwell's even in prison. I don't know why he took his own life. It's very bizarre to see this news drop now. It feels pretty condescending, in my opinion. I'm having a hard time wrapping my head around it, just because of all the things we knew leading up to it. Just because we know this history has this country has a long history of sexual blackmail, dating back to at least the birth of the FBI and what the mafia was doing to Hoover when they caught him with his gay lover in a hotel in New York City cross-dressing and held that over his head. We know this blackmail stuff has been going on for decades and decades. So, the Epstein stuff now, we allegedly, officially have no list, no nothing. It's very bizarre. And it feels like we are still in like a fake reality. And to see the reactions from people such as Trump has been very disconcerting. But before we get into that article about the Epstein stuff, I just want to shout out everyone who's now joining us from IRL. We appreciate y'all being here. This is Inverted World Live. This is a call-in show. The link to call-in is pinned in the chat on both Rumble and YouTube. You can give us a call if you have any strange encounter you want to share with us. But let's get into Epstein just a bit. I'm not going to take up too much time because I really want to get to you guys who've been waiting to call in. But a few thoughts on this, and we'll pull up this article just to refresh anyone who might not have seen that the Justice Department says Jeffrey Epstein had no client list and, in fact, did die by suicide. That is the official story. I'm going to read this from CBS News, one of my most trusted news organizations of all time. A Justice Department and FBI review of the investigation related to disgraced late financier Jeffrey Epstein found that there was no client list or evidence that he blackmailed prominent figures, according to a memo detailing the findings. So Bill Gates just got divorced for no reason. The Prince Andrew, he lost his title for no reason. Just weird coincidences that surrounded Jeffrey Epstein. But I go on. The review also concluded that Epstein died by suicide while in custody at a Manhattan correctional facility in August 2019. Epstein was facing federal sex trafficking charges, and his death was subsequently investigated by the Justice Department's internal watchdog and the FBI. And you guys know the FBI has no reason to lie. Ever. They would never lie to us about anything. If CBS says it and the FBI says it, then we should probably believe them, right? The Justice Department, I continue in this article, says, and the FBI said in their memo that video footage reviewed by the Bureau investigators and made available to the public confirmed that Epstein was locked in his cell and nobody entered tiers of the unit where he was housed at the time of his death. But Brandon, is there any part of that video that's weird to you?
Aside from the fact that it doesn't show anything and there's a missing minute from it.
Yeah. A missing minute?
There's an entire 60 seconds of this video that is missing, which we all know very well by now, because it's the first thing that we caught, and we talked about it on IRL the other night.
It's bizarre.
Absolutely bizarre. And yeah, I'm not satisfied at all, like a lot of other people. So
yeah, so I'm not going to read much more of that article because you guys know what's going on, but I just want to use that as a launching pad for all this whole circus. It has been so condescending to the American people that most of these people use podcasts to get into this administration, talking a big game about, Epstein being this evil man, the trafficking he's done, and now that they're all in power, like, what's happened?
And what's really happened? Grinds my gears.
Tell me, dude. Tell me.
We were the JFK assassination pre-tape that we did for Monday.
Right.
We discussed all of the doctoring that was done to the Zapruder film, only to have this film also nearly just as controversial, but also involving a death. Come forward, and it has already been doctored again before meeting our eyes.
Do you think they're going to give us the missing minute eventually, like how the Zapruder film keeps changing over the years? They'll be like, hey, we actually found a missing minute. Just like how the cameras weren't working, but now all of a sudden they are working. We have
it's either that hours. Or we're gonna get new view found from other side of prison shows exact same thing but reversed angle.
Right.
That's inevitable.
So condescending. I just hate seeing. I remember the day one of those interviews came out. I think it was when Kash Patel and Dan Bongino did an interview together, which I always thought was weird. As weird as the Trump and Elon interviews together, but they had that weird body language. We were on IRL, I think the day after that video dropped the night before, and I was saying, these guys don't look well. They look like something is wrong. They have been fairly confident looking throughout all the times I've seen them on Tim's show and other shows, but now all of a sudden, something's wrong. So are they spooked? Or are they lying on purpose? Or do they really believe this? Their body language to me tells me everything I need to know. Not in terms of the answers I would like to know, but in terms of they are unwilling or unable to tell us what they actually do know. I think they do know something and they can't share it with us. I think it's kind of like how people talk about the alien disclosure stuff. Although I have my different takes on the alien stuff, the way people talk about it is like, hey, the people can't handle the truth, so we got to like slow leak it or just lie to them. It feels very similar with what's going on with the Epstein thing now that these guys are all in there, and totally going back on most of the things a lot of these guys have said in the years leading up to this. This is one of the most tragic, nefarious crimes in American history. That affects the innocence of children. And this should not be something that we should just like sweep under the rug, not something that we forget. This is a profoundly evil situation. And we know this stuff is going on. I mean, this guy was already in jail for doing these bad things in Florida, where he was given a sweetheart deal. He was able to leave his jail cell because he's got connections. He knew everybody. And even after that, even after those, the time he spent in prison for that, he still had these big connections. That's why, in my opinion, I don't think Epstein's dead. I don't think he's dead. I think he's still alive. I think he's out there.
I got to give you the question that they gave on IRL, since you were supposed to be the butt in that seat that night.
You did a great job, though. Give it up for Brandon, everybody. Doing a great job that night.
Thank you. I appreciate it. It was very last minute, but we got it done. So me and Phil came to the determination, well, at least Phil had suggested it, and I completely agree with it, that it's like a Rorschach situation, where with the government, if you're Trump, do you release this information to the public knowing that it could damn and put down a large part of corporations or anybody else that's involved? Who knows, obviously, who is on the list that doesn't exist, as I've been calling it. Whether or not that would break the U.S. economy or a number of other, disasters could possibly happen befalling the American public. Or do you just string all of these bastards up and throw the book at them, which is what everyone wants to see happen.
What would be the difference?
The difference there is
like if
destroy America to expose, or don't expose and keep your campaign running for another 3 years. I mean, it's his last. He's not going to be reelected, right?
I see what you're saying. String him up like not in terms of like a Mussolini situation.
Like out him regardless of the circumstances. Regardless of the repercussions that are going to befall the American public. And
I think we burn the whole thing down.
Honestly, I've been sitting on this question for a couple of days, and I agree. I think these people deserve to be punished.
Yes.
And by all standards of the law, whatever way the law dictates, based off of the crimes that they have committed. I'm not advocating for violence again.
Right.
But I honestly think, yes, we need to do something about this. This should not be allowed to happen.
Exactly.
And it's disgusting.
Exactly. If we let it go, if we let it just keep going on, we're going to be, it's like of someone who's in an abusive relationship who can't leave it. You have to end. This has to end. And I don't care what it interrupts, what it destroys. This has to end. And it's affecting kids. There's 100,000 kids that were missing over the border just in the past 4 years. Who knows how many of those kids have been trafficked and are, we have stories of these poor children who are hostage in skyscrapers in cities like New York being raped every day, multiple times a day by people who pay for it. It's sick, disgusting stuff. And when I did the weekend in Ohio with Alex Rosen, where we caught these demons who were harming children, we could have done 72 hours nonstop taking these guys off the street. That's just the low-level idiots. This is a disease. This is an evil thing that's happening in every level of society. It's not just these people who, hang out in front of the 7-Eleven waiting to meet some 11-year-old chick that they talk to on Roblox, which is insane and disgusting, and those people need to be taken away from society. But that evil urge, that demon brain in those people doesn't stop at the low level demons. They're in all parts of our society. They're in politics. They have much power. They have a lot of power. This is what Epstein was catering to. This is what the blackmail was a part of, because they have to still hide behind the shadows. They have to hide their evil urges behind the shadows so they can still operate in quote unquote polite society and operate, with these businesses and get these contracts and not be thrown away forever and ridiculed out of society. That's why they went to an island. That's why they did all this stuff in secret. It's never going to end unless we have repercussions for these people. So I don't care what it does to the economy. They've already shut the world down for COVID. We're still feeling the repercussions from lockdowns. So many small businesses went under. So many people took their lives because of isolation. So many people took their lives because of overdoses. So many people took their lives because of fear and paranoia pumped into their skulls by the corporate press and their politicians. So I don't care. Whatever the consequences are, these people must be totally exposed and held responsible, thrown away forever, if not worse. But I've been calling for Nuremberg trials for the people like Fauci for a while too. But this is another situation with the Epstein stuff and the people like him. So that's my take on it. And I am really upset with these people who got in office, and they just look like they're lying to me. They look like Ben Shapiro trying to tell me that the FBI is correct on everything. The eye movements, the body language, they don't believe what they're saying. I truly think they know they're lying to us. That's what their body language says to me. And I hope they correct me if I'm wrong, right? Do you see it?
Yeah, and I mean, I think it's disgusting, and I think we need to stop it now before it goes any further, because if not, we're fathering this and we're allowing it to prolong, and it's our fault at that point. If you let it go on when you can do something about it, from that point on, it is your fault.
I voted for Trump for retribution, to be a wrecking ball, because he became this mythological figure that took on everything he was fighting, and they tried taking his life. I wasn't voting for him just because of that, but I was voting for him because look what they were doing to him. I agree with a lot of things he says, although I disagree with some other things, especially now. But I wanted this guy to go in there and be the wrecking ball we needed to try to make this country actually quote unquote great again. But we are not getting that at all. He seems very deflated to me right now. I'm very underwhelmed with this administration. When he flipped out on the reporter just the other day when she was asking him about the Epstein stuff, the video, he got really upset. His body language, again, like I was saying with Bongino and Cash, he got nasty, you know, and it wasn't typical like fake news nasty where he could just shoot it down. He was visibly upset about it. He wanted to move on, you know, and there could be multiple reasons for that. Some people are saying because he's implicated in the files. I don't really believe that. I think it's his ego, and he's like, I just want to get over with it. I want to get out of this. Da 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 da. I don't think that was a very good look for him, you know, because I think unfortunately Trump has surrounded himself by like soft substackers who lob like nothing questions at him, and like personalities like Benny Johnson's who do nothing but are yes men, and there's been no questions of substance at all to him. Anything that looks like it's substance that's a question towards Trump comes from the left, but it's like it's not rooted in any truth, so he can swat it away easily. There needs to be like legit questions about the Epstein stuff, about the, you know, all the AI stuff that we've talked about on this show, the people who are trying to steal farmland from farmers in California. These are real questions that need to be asked of him and his administration that we're not really getting. Also, like why the AI stuff is completely counter to the Maha stuff in terms of the mRNA stuff, You guys know what I'm talking about. You know, that's a whole episode 50 about that situation. But he's been so like isolated from real questions that you see him get mad now when he's asked about Epstein. He just wants to be over with it, but we cannot be over with it because this is a very serious issue. This is an insane issue. In my opinion, they shut down the world because of Epstein. And I know that sounds crazy to some people, but lockdowns didn't happen much longer after Epstein was put in prison, after he took his life, allegedly. I think that things are connected. You know, prove me wrong. There's who knows? That's just my theory. But Epstein is a global syndicate of sex trafficking demons, and then Fauci and China working in tandem for gain of function to shut down the world. You know, maybe I'm just crazy, but I think that was all connected, and I think it's because it's the most elite people in our world who are part of this stuff. So, you know, I don't know, guys. I'm talking about Epstein real quick, and I have a few other things to say, but I wanted to just say what's up to everyone who is now joining us from IRL. I appreciate you guys being here. We are talking about Epstein, how this case is now, I guess, officially closed, and you know, I don't believe it one bit. But the other thing that I've been seeing going around is that Epstein's old cellmate is saying he definitely killed himself. Now, if you see me on IRL, you might have seen me say this story before. I'm going to try to say it quickly because I know we probably have callers already lined up, right? And I still want to do...
Yeah, we got a few.
Okay, so I want to get through this, and I want to talk about weather really quick, but I find this important, and I want people to try to understand this if they see it, if they come across this story. Nicholas Tartaglione was someone who, like, randomly, he abducted 4 men in a town that I worked at when I was a furniture mover in Chester, New York, many years ago. This whole story about it was a drug deal gone wrong. Tartaglione was selling drugs. These 4 guys were like illegal immigrants. I think 2 of them were part of the drug deal. Tartaglione was an ex-cop, super crooked, from what I can tell, like beat up people like civilians, just not a good dude, bodybuilder. I'm not saying bodybuilder is bad, but just try to get the picture in your mind. This dude is huge and selling drugs. Anyway, the drug deal went wrong in Chester. He abducted them, he executed them, and he buried them on a pig farm about an hour north of Chester. And when I saw the signs for the missing men who were in their 40s and 30s, I was like, that's weird. You don't see 4 men that age go missing. That's when I started learning about the story, and I was starting to write about it. And so I was pretty invested in this Tartaglione guy. That's when I looked into his past as a cop, how weird it was, the bodybuilding, the drugs, da-da-da-da. And then he goes to jail, right? They get him. As they pick up Tartaglione, they also try to get his accomplice. When the cops approach the accomplice's car, the accomplice takes out a gun, takes his own life. Pretty serious stuff. Tartaglione goes to jail. He's sitting in New York City. And I've been trying to pitch this story at the time to all these places. No one cared about the story. I'm like, this is kind of crazy. But it turns out his cellmate was Jeffrey Epstein at some point. And that is, the official story is that Tartaglione attacked Jeffrey Epstein, which is how Jeffrey Epstein went into the cell alone, where he would quote unquote take his life. Now Tartaglione says he's innocent and that nothing happened. According to official reports from multiple outlets, who knows how true it is, Tartaglione received a cell phone in his cell the day before he allegedly beat up Jeffrey Epstein. No one knows how he got that cell phone. When it happened back then, the joke was Hillary did it, but who knows, because this guy's connected to everybody. Tartaglione has since said he saw Epstein try to take his own life in their cell before he was moved. And, my feeling about Tartaglione is that he could be, and this is pure speculation, but I have been kind of like obsessing over his story and how it weaves through the Epstein story for so many years now, and how he was kept in prison for so long without a court date. Comey's daughter was also prosecuting him. Comey was also in charge of the Epstein stuff, and we know that all the weird stuff happening with Bill Barr and Epstein and the school. My speculation is that it is possible that Tartaglione is some sort of asset who's being used, who's given some sort of deal behind the scenes to help sell the narrative, the official narrative. Look, I have no proof of this, but the more I see him from prison saying, oh, he definitely killed himself, the more I get a little suspicious. And you can be like, well, Shane, you're just crazy because you need to believe he didn't kill himself. I really don't. And I would be totally fine if he did take his life. I don't see why he would, knowing that he had such a cush life in jail the first time. I think he had so many good connections that he could get through anything. I don't think he was afraid. Some people would say, well, he didn't want to affect his family. This is a demon. He doesn't care about his family or friends. He does not care. He cares about himself, and he cares about his life outside this and money and blackmail.
Now, the fact of the matter is that one completely outweighs the other. Mm-hmm. There are more reasons why many people would want him dead at that exact time than there is that he would want himself dead at that time.
Right. And I used to think he was taken out. I really don't believe that. So real quick, I'll finish with Tartaglione. I think he's being used. He's got some deal to help sell this official narrative. Something about it is super weird. The cell phone, the amount of time he spent in that prison, you can go look up that prison. It was super corrupt. This is the same prison where all of a sudden the security guys that fell asleep at the moment Epstein took his life. What are the odds? Go talk to other prison guards about that, especially when someone who's so in the news. Then the cameras weren't working. Now they are. Also, it was so high, intense, the tension of the Epstein stuff and what he was accused of, that someone went to the house of one of the judges dealing with the Epstein case to assassinate her, and her son opened the door and they killed her son. Like, this isn't just like a nothing thing. This is like real stuff was going on that people were willing to kill you over. So,
and I'd see people, cowards commit suicide, something I just seen in the chat.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Look at any picture of Epstein out on the internet and tell me that looks like a guy who feels remorseful for the shit that he's currently doing. Right. Because I can tell you right now, that is not the guy depicted in any picture that you're ever going to see of this guy. He knew exactly what he was doing the entire time that he was doing it, and he didn't give a shit, and I promise you that.
I think he's in witness protection. I don't think he's dead. I think he has a lot of information that our government was using, and that we have let a lot of really bad people go before into witness protection. Really bad people. It's not unheard of. And that's why, in my opinion, everyone's so freaked out, because they realized, wow, they gave him a pretty sweet deal. I mean, an auto pen gave Fauci a pardon. Anything's possible. And Fauci is a genocidal maniac who, we know, gain of function, all that good stuff, but we can go back decades and all the other stuff he's done. This is what they do. When we went into Japan after World War II and found that Unit 731, our government was like, oh, this is cool stuff, all this torture. We'll give all of you amnesty. Just give us all that information. I don't have a hard time believing that that's kind of something that happened with Epstein. And I understand. I agree. Cowards do commit suicide. I just don't think this guy cared.
I don't think he was scared either. Right. I don't think he was scared.
He was not scared. This guy's not scared. This guy was so connected to everything. He had been connected to everyone from Elon to Hawking to Gates, you name it. I'm not saying they're all Bill Gates is certainly evil, and you know how I feel about Elon. But I don't think just being in his vicinity means that you're now corrupt or bad. I think he was able to infiltrate every part of society, whether it was education, science, Hollywood, all those places. That was his job. His job was to go out and collect information, to hold over your head, to make you do whatever he wanted. He was like a puppeteer. This is a guy who wanted to seed the whole planet with his DNA. He had a compound out in the Southwest where he was going to try to do this kind of thing. Not a normal guy. This is evil stuff. So I just want everyone to keep that in mind with the Tartaglione thing. And if you see that come across your screen on your feeds, something very suspicious to me about everything going on with Tartaglione. His story alone is weird. But, being an ex-cop who was prone to violence, I first did believe the whole beating him up thing. I think there's something else there. And I think he's got some sort of deal. Because the more I see of him, the less I believe anything he says. Which, used to be not to be the case, even though I always thought he was guilty.
Now we got a few minutes left. I really want to get into these videos that you sent me of the missing minute, because I know a lot of people
forgot about those.
Want to know what the hell is going on with that. If you haven't already looked it up, and
it's so aggravating.
It is. I want to go to the video that's got Trump in it as well.
President Trump not happy getting a Jeffrey Epstein question at the White House today.
And are people still talking about this guy?
This guy?
Are people still talking about this?
Kind of a big deal.
We finally get an answer after all this time on what's going on, and it's not an answer at all. And the day after the answer is released, knowing that it doesn't give anyone, it gives everyone precisely dick, he is going to ask, is everyone still talking about this?
I'm so curious, in the chat, if you guys think we should just move on from this or not. Someone was hitting me up earlier about how, don't you think we should just move on from this and focus on the things that matter, like homeland attacks? I'm like, no, it's both. This country should be able to multitask, just like they multitask on wars we shouldn't be fighting. We're on two fronts right now, at least. We should be worried about protecting our citizens and our children, of course. And I also think a lot of these homeland attacks, are perpetrated by people within our own government. But that's a whole other episode we've done about psyops and operations like Gladio. And some of those people might be performing those violences because they have something being held over their head. Anyway, let's hear more from these guys.
On Monday, the DOJ released this video of Epstein's federal jail cell the night the disgraced financier died. But the time code jumps just before midnight. Attorney General Pam Bondi explaining.
And what we learned from Bureau of Prisons was every night the video is reset, and every night should have the same minute missing.
Together with the video, the DOJ issued an undated and unsigned memo confirming Epstein died by suicide and that he did not have a client list to traffic underage girls.
Okay.
Now, you guys all know the story with this, I believe. If you don't, basically, Pam Bondi was quoted as saying as she has the list on her desk, only for there to be released officially that there is no list. I actually made the joke on Twitter that she has a copy of GTA 6 on her desk as well.
Is that where it is?
Because we haven't seen that either.
Yeah,
so
it must be where it is. She also said that we had truckloads of files, and now we have nothing.
Yeah, tens of thousands of videos, was it, or thousands?
Yeah,
something along those lines, right?
Tons of videos, horrific stuff, and O'Keefe had a secret video, undercover video of her talking to someone else about having all those videos as well.
Yeah, and I actually want to get to just her comments on this here, because I think that's what this is. Let's run this.
And the minute missing from the video, we released the video showing definitively the video was not conclusive, but the evidence prior to it was showing he committed suicide. And what was on that, there was a minute that was off the counter. And what we learned from Bureau of Prisons was every night they redo that video. It's old, from 1999.
Yeah, so we know what she's going to say next. Yeah, every video in existence has a minute missing.
She's about to blame Y2K. Y2K did it. Are you serious? She doesn't even sound like she believes what she's saying.
It sounds like she had it rehearsed and she was going back through it and kind of skipping up her story a little bit.
Oh yeah, 100%.
These were the things that I don't think they planned on having to have answers for, and now all of a sudden they're like, "Oh shit!"
They think we're stupid. They want us to move on. They don't see why this is a big deal. Or maybe they do think it's a big deal, but they have totally lost control of it. They know there's something much deeper. I saw Cerno talking to Tim, I don't know if that was yesterday or a few days ago, and I have to agree with him. It was one of the more outlandish things he said, and I'm sure people out there won't be surprised that I agree with this part, but when Tim asked him, what do you think is behind this? He said, I think there's an ancient breakaway civilization, something like ancient, evil, and deep. Like, that's kind of how I feel. When I think of the deep state, when I think of these people behind the scenes operating, I think of ancient, people who have been around for a very long time, who are conducting violence. I don't know if they're reptiles, if they're demons, but like I do really think that's how they think about us, because when you think about the transhumanists and how they want to live forever, like the people these are the same people who also want to have a breakaway civilization. Mars, Teal has his floating cities. We've gone through all those things. They have a different sense of time. They have a different sense of consequence. So since they see us as finite beings, like, just throw them meat and then just move on, because we have bigger fish to fry in their mind. We're thinking hundreds of years in the future, because they're still planning on trying to be around. And I think there's been people like that throughout the ages. I do think there's breakaway civilizations. I think a lot of these aliens that we see are probably products of those breakaway civilizations. And maybe this is where I've lost some of you guys, but I do think that there's some ancient strain of evil that operates in this, and on this planet that is conducting these things, that literally feeds off human suffering and definitely off of children. We did a whole episode on adrenochrome, and you can go back and find that with Paranoid American, and did the whole history of adrenochrome, both the conspiracy theory and the factual, like on the record stuff about adrenochrome. Fascinating stuff. I think that plays into a lot of this stuff. And then again, with Epstein, this guy had some weird torture stuff in his New York City apartment. That's just one of the many places he had where, these children were doing things. I don't know. I think it's out of control, and I think they've lost the plot, and they're mad that we don't want to forget about it. But we should not forget about it, because the children should not ever be hurt, ever be used for anything like this. And it is insane that it happens at this frequency, all over the place, all the time. Like I said, I was just in Ohio. I was just in one part of Ohio, and there were predators everywhere. They are in every part of society. They want to harm your children. This is how they feed. Like, they find energy from eating off of our suffering. And it's not just the children, because it's all of us. And I think this is something that must be exposed. It is an evil I think a lot of people cannot fathom. When I wrote that story, a lot of people told me they couldn't read it. It's too dark. Totally understand. I had a very hard time standing there watching these demons literally shit themselves because they've been caught in a field when they thought they were about to walk away with a 10-year-old girl. It is disgusting, but we have to unfortunately face that reality. These people are everywhere. They're in politics. They're in your corporations. They're at your schools, and they have to be rooted out. And this is going to be a big part of that. If we can have some accountability and actually confront it and face it as a country, I think we could start to fix some things.
I mean, now's the time, man. Like, why the hell are you going to wait any longer?
Exactly.
Than this? Is honestly the question. Why wait until something like this happens again? And then, okay, now we've got to deal with it. No, this is our time to deal with it now.
Yep.
I think the truth needs to be public, and it needs to be handled.
And before we move on to the weather stuff, I also want to say, there probably isn't files, right? Like, everyone's asking for files. They're probably long gone. And whatever files there are probably fake. Like, I think, so many of these files and tapes that they said they confiscated have passed through so many hands over the years. There is no way to verify anything. And that's, beyond just what we know with AI, being able to make anything. It has been in, possession of the authority for so long. I don't think there's anything that you can even trust. And then there's people who say Epstein was just fake himself. That's a whole other rabbit hole we'll go down, but I want to talk about weather. But, it's worth considering every avenue. When we've talked about how false flags happen, about how certain actors or people like Charles Manson are kind of created by the government, you kind of have to look at all these angles, which is why it's hard for people to want to confront all this stuff, because you kind of feel crazy for having to look at it through all these different lenses. But that's the world we live in. There's a lot of weird psychopaths in power who also have used things like magic. Oh, magic, that sounds crazy. Go look up the CIA pamphlet they made with magicians on how to create illusions to control your brain during MK Ultra days, during the heyday of MK Ultra days, because we're still in it. And they just use the social media now. That's literally what they're doing, and that's what they've been doing. They've been conducting spells on the American people and the world to carry out their demonic plan. And this is all part of it, the Epstein stuff for sure. And I'd love to see an end put to it. But we also got to deal with the sky and the weaponization of our skies. And, speaking of children being hurt, I was completely devastated this weekend when I saw all these children that were, that lost their lives in this flood in Texas. It was like really heartbreaking. It was tough to watch. I really didn't even want to look at that news, but, unfortunately, that's what we do. And reading these articles and seeing these children that lost their lives, so many of them, the parents didn't know where they were, and stories of children writing their names on their bodies before they get washed away. The father, who was 27, who was trapped in their house with the family, and he punched out the window, severed an artery. The family got out, but then he died. He sacrificed himself for his family. I mean, this is heartbreaking, crazy stuff. And then, like most crazy tragedies, there is a bunch of people, and sometimes I'm one of them, who starts questioning the official narrative, and why we do that. As ghoulish as it seems to some people, this is why Alex Jones got in some trouble with the Sandy Hook stuff. But we understand that there are evil people operating behind the scenes who do terrible things, but we also understand that there are natural disasters, although I think they're less and less these days. So it's hard to digest the reality of this real death and these innocent lives that are lost, while also confronting the reality of these floods are insane. They do happen. Real floods do happen. I get it. My town was completely washed away 2 years ago. It was a mountain town in New York. Completely bizarre. We've had floods here and there. Nothing like that. It just ripped my town away. It was gone. Entire holes opened up. Cars went through holes. My parents had a little bridge. That thing got swept away. An entire bridge was swept away. It was biblical. It was insane. I was actually on my way to my hometown as it was happening. I was in Pennsylvania. It was raining so hard there. We had to turn around, only to find out that I wouldn't have been able to make it into my old town because of all the bridges were literally washed away. Boulders were rolling down the hills, rolling through entire houses, just taking out people. It made no sense, and now we saw what happened in North Carolina. Those poor people, also in mountains. And again, these things do happen, I get it, but we also have been studying weather modification for years. I mean, like this show and the people watching, but also our government, and dating back to the 1800s, which I'll get to in a second. So it's hard when we see these things that seem to make no sense to us, although we know these do occur naturally, obviously. But when they become so frequent and so bizarre in places that are, that they so rarely happen, it's hard not to question it. But then you could also say people at large have lost it. And I do think lockdowns did accelerate not so much mental illness, well, maybe mental illness too, but a paranoia and distrust in everything from the government to weather, but for good reason, right? Because we were completely lied to about everything, about why they literally shut it down the world. Like we're being lied to right now about Epstein. So, when it comes to this, and I'm watching my hometown get destroyed, I'm watching North Carolina, now we're seeing this terrible stuff in Texas, and, it does make no sense, but tragedy is hard to confront. I get, I was just saying with the dark stuff with the Epstein case, but we can start back in the 1800s, have been trying to modify the weather for, quite some time. There was a guy who was trying to cool the air by exploding it in the 1890. I think there's a patent out there for it. Literally, he was trying to just bomb the air, and he would create rain by bombing the clouds. And he tried. I don't know how successful it was. And then we had Operation Popeye many years later, almost 70 years later, when our government we were at war in Vietnam, and we said, hey, we want to defeat the Viet Cong. So we're going to seed the clouds with silver iodide during monsoon season so we can flush out all the Ho Chi Minh and their tunnels, and we'll win. And they did that 2,000 times. And we really don't know how effective it was because they were like, it was also monsoon season. But 2,000 times, that's a lot. We've also, I think it was Operation Storm Fury or Operation Fury, we bombed hurricanes to try to steer them in the 50s or 60s. And one of those did not go well because according to the reports, it went in a direction it wasn't supposed to, and it did take out a town. And now, cloud seeding has just never stopped. And we signed this thing with NATO, I think it was in the 70s, saying we're not going to do any more cloud seeding for military purposes. But it doesn't mean they stopped for civilian purposes, clearly, because things are still doing it. So when I say after tragedy, people are starting questioning everything, the events, why is it like this? People started questioning the storms and the one in Texas, like they are in New Mexico as well right now. And they're like, well, the weather modification, has that played any effect with any of this? We saw last year in Qatar, the crazy floods that happened, and they are massively seeding their clouds out there. Like they have completely manipulated their atmosphere. So it seems like it backfired there. They'll tell you something else differently. You can look it up on NBC, and they've got another story. But there were a lot of people looking at what was happening in Texas over the weekend and saying, was there any weather manipulation going on? And then we saw that this company Rainmaker was seeding the clouds a few days prior, and then Tim actually had on the CEO of Rainmaker to discuss these allegations. He said they had nothing to do with it, and they couldn't track it, or they could. He says they can track their cloud seeding now, and it had nothing to do with what went on now. And he talks about altitudes, but I did want to play some of his clip from Tim's show just to show you the new face of Big Cloud. I've been talking about fake clouds for years. I've been getting laughed at everywhere about fake clouds, and this is literally one of the guys who is the face of people taking clouds, when I talk about fake clouds, and mutilating them for rain, to make it rain. Not like Lil Wayne, but like God, because they're trying to play God. Now look at this guy. What's his name?
It doesn't give his full name. I think
he's got some crazy fake name.
He announces it at the beginning of the video.
Let's listen to this.
Just have him as A. Dorico.
Sure. My name is Augustus Dorico. I'm the founder and CEO of Rainmaker, which is a next generation cloud seeding company that flies drones into clouds and disperses a material that makes clouds rain or snow more for the sake of saving farms, ecosystems, cities, and industries that are at risk of drought.
So I think it was NBC that reported, so correct me and them if it's not true. They said your company cloud seeded in Texas 2 days before the floods happened. Is that true?
So that is true. And I should also say immediately thereafter that cloud seeding operation and all of Rainmaker's operations had nothing to do with the floods that ensued. And so just to give you context on what cloud seeding is a little bit more first, and then the timeline of events as it relates to the flood. Cloud seeding relies on finding clouds that exist, right? It's not chemtrails, right? If you see a long streak in the sky, that has nothing to do with cloud seeding. It's not dimming the sun either, which is another real technology called solar radiation modification. Cloud seeding is a water supply tool invented in the United States in the 1940s that farmers have been using, that governments have been using for decades to enhance their water supplies. So in Texas, there are municipalities and farmers that contract with us to produce more water for their crops themselves, for rain on their crops, to replenish their reservoirs, to recharge their aquifers. Because if you look at Texas, obviously it does not need more water right now. But the Ogallala aquifer is radically depleted as of just June 20.
Did he really go there?
He's young. I'm going to give him some grace. He is a little boy with a mullet.
Now is not a good time to be cracking jokes like that shit when you're suspected of being responsible for the floods in the first place.
Fourth, there was severe drought throughout a lot of the state. And so these entities, these farms and municipal governments, they contract with us to make more rain when there is drought. We were flying a cloud seeding operation for about 20 minutes on July 2nd at about 1 p.m. Central Time. That cloud seeding flight seeded 2 clouds where we dispersed about 70 grams worth of silver iodide. That's the material we use. And that's like 10 Skittles worth of material.
Can you pause it real quick? I got 2 things I want to say about this. He's talking about Skittles. I'm like, this kid, I hate that.
He's rocking a suit with a mullet too, and it's pissing me off. It might just be me.
And the silver iodide stuff is so interesting. It's funny that the EPA actually has it listed as a hazardous material, but he does say later on, like, they use such a little amount that it doesn't do any harm. But that sounds like trust the science, bro. But let's see.
Not to mention, he just said, "Yeah, we put some Skittles in the clouds and we made a rainbow." Yeah. Thanks.
Mm-hmm.
Those clouds, and then they precipitated and dissipated over the course of 2 hours after. Mm-hmm. So those clouds themselves were gone. The aerosols that we dispersed precipitated out and dispersed away. They didn't remain in the atmosphere long after. We then saw the National Weather Service issue their flash flood warning at about 1 a.m. on the 3rd. We, as cloud seeders, are regulated by the state of Texas with something called suspension criteria, which means if there already is risk of flooding, if there already is too much moisture on the ground and any more rain could cause flooding, if the reservoirs are too full and could spill over and cause flooding, then we're legally required by the Texas Department of Licensing and Regulation to suspend operations to do no harm. And not only did we act in accordance with Texas state law and stop before those operations happened, our meteorologists were capable enough to identify that there was going to be risk of flooding before we were required to suspend operations, and then had no effect whatsoever on the remnants of Tropical Storm Barry that did blow in and induce the floods that occurred. And just for context on scale too, real quick, the best cloud seeding operations that we've seen to date, either from our operations or from the best-in-class research at universities across the Western U.S. Those cloud seeding operations produce tens of millions of gallons of precipitation over the course of about an hour or two, distributed over hundreds of square miles. The flooding that occurred, that system dumped like 3 to 4 trillion gallons of precipitation. So 1, we weren't operating during that storm. 2, the aerosols that were dispersed in the prior day could not have persisted long enough to affect that. And then 3, even if we had been seeding during that system and we weren't, there's no way that cloud seeding could have produced as much water as we saw from that.
The CEO of the cloud seeding says cloud seeding is safe and effective. It had nothing to do with any of this stuff. I think that guy's full of it. Just for context, that guy is a Peter Thiel fellow. You've heard me talk about Peter Thiel a whole bunch on this show. He's got money from Thiel. This Rainmaker thing is Thiel affiliated. Thiel loves funding things that are anti-human. I do not think we should be messing with this guy. Even if it's a little bit, I don't think this is a good thing.
I get a Wolf of Wall Street vibe from this guy.
Yeah, totally. He also is like a knockoff version of Palmer Luckey, who is another one of Peter Thiel's test tube babies, who does Anduril, which is like the ghost drone killer robot thing that they're doing. They're building a giant warehouse for it, or industry for it in Ohio, where Peter Thiel's other test tube baby, J.D. Vance, is from. And these people, I think, just hate humans and want to destroy us. And he tried to sell it where it's like, well, we're just trying to save lives. I don't think we should be messing with this at all. But he does talk about Operation Popeye in that video. I highly encourage everyone to go watch Tim's entire interview with that guy and hear his take, because it's fascinating stuff, whether you like it or not. It's pretty wild, and it's wild to see where cloud seeding has gone from just a guy trying to blow up the sky in the 1800s to the Viet Cong, the Vietnam War, what we were doing with Operation Popeye, to the 40s, and then also to always consider, rivers do flood. I grew up next to the Hudson River. That river does just flood. These things do just happen. I also think we are not helping by introducing other elements that shouldn't be introduced, in my opinion. But that's just one of many we should be introducing. He did talk about chemtrails. And he talks about the difference. I don't think he talks about the difference between chemtrails and contrails. He might have them confused in the full interview. You have to go watch it. Contrails, just for context, people, are the small tails of vapor behind a plane that disappear. Chemtrails are the ones that spread out, thin and long behind a plane, and then like fake cobwebs from Spirit Halloween. They take over the whole sky, and then it randomly rains the next day. But there's a hierarchy of fake clouds, and there's many different ones. What this guy's doing is taking vintage clouds and putting his silver iodide in them to make it rain. And the thing with vintage clouds is that most of them are already filled with bad stuff just because of all the things we've done to the sky. Like think about all the bombs we exploded during the 50s and where did that stuff go? All these forever chemicals that are in the water supplies, where do you think those all go? The acid rain phenomenon, the 60s and 70s, or maybe it's the 80s, I think there was something to it. Not, it's like a lot of liberals cry about climate change, but I think they cry about it in all the wrong reasons. And I actually think there is something wrong with the climate, but it's because people did it in terms of geoengineering and messing with it. He did talk about Bill Gates. He is trying to block the sun with dust. He's not the only one. These people are trying to turn the sky against you. I think they already have. I do think it's backfired. I don't know if the Texas thing is a part of that. I don't think it helps. They are cloud seeding in New Mexico right now. They just passed, I forget the bills, like Bill 130 that the House passed in New Mexico. It's happening all over the place in many different capacities. And the other thing, people talk about, well, it's for farmers and stuff. It's going to get way more dystopian because what this guy really does, yes, he does help farms, although I don't think it's very good to have the silver iodide come down onto farms. That can't be good. But what he's also doing, and what I think most of his company will end up doing, is they make it rain for data centers. That data centers use up a ton of rain. And who just got $500 million for infrastructure in Texas? OpenAI. They need lots of data centers. Right. So look up that, see him talk about data centers and their needs. So we're going to start having fake silver iodide rain coming out of fake clouds to rain on data centers. This isn't going to be for farms in the future because they're going to get rid of that stuff. That's not for us much longer. The Amish, all this stuff, they're phasing out. The Amish voted for Trump, and I was so happy when they did, but I don't think they realized they voted for the death of all farming. Because it's going to change, guys. I don't like it at all, but they are trying to get rid of it. You can look up these guys talking about farming and how they see it. Look up their 15-minute cities. They hate you. And I can go on and on about Peter Thiel, and this guy sweats blood because he injects 16-year-old boy blood into his body because he thinks it's going to make him live longer because he's a transhumanist. I highly recommend looking up Thiel's recent interview with Ross Rothat, I believe his name is, from the New York Times. It's good. And
I like the description vampire better.
He is a vampire. Yeah, the tech vampires.
I totally get on board with him being a vampire. I'm fine with that one.
This guy's a vampire too. This guy, speaking of blood, this guy who was on Tim's show, his company's motto is, I think I wrote it down, "We love the taste of blood in our mouth." Now he says that's because they like competition. Now who doesn't like competition? I love competition. But it's weird when the guy who funds you is a vampire.
Yeah, that's not creepy at all.
Your dude is a vampire who literally sweats blood. Go look up his interviews. The man is leaking out of every pore young boy's blood because he's a sick man.
All right. So really quick, in the midst of all this crazy, chaotic, infuriating, scary bullshit that's been in the news recently, I do want to recognize the gleam of hope that came out of this whole Texas flood situation, which is a young man named Scott Ruskin, who is a U.S. Coast Guard rescue swimmer. This gentleman, on his first mission, managed to save roughly 160 lives, and most of them were children. Hats off to this guy. This is an American hero, in my opinion, who deserves recognition.
Incredible.
And I think this is the guy that we should be talking about and sharing examples with for other people.
100%.
I think we need more people like this, especially when the shit is hitting the fan. This is a guy who wasn't scared to go out and literally get wet in order to save lives. So thank you, Scott Ruskin, from everybody at IWL. We appreciate you.
That's incredible. I saw that story. I was like, whew, man, I love that people like that still exist. Like, thank God for people like that. Amazing. Amidst all the darkness. I'm glad you pulled that up, dude. That's a good one. Well, that's my spiel for now. They're just, I just hate what they're doing to the sky. I hate what they're doing to this country. And I wish someone would fix it. Marjorie Taylor Greene is trying to pass a bill, or at least she's introducing one about this kind of stuff. So we'll see where that goes. There's lots of states who've done it. I think Tennessee and Florida have passed bills against it. We'll see. I think the sky is filled with clouds that are filled with really bad things, and they're not good for us. I think we're being attacked at literally every level. The food you buy, the stuff in the sky, everything you wear, like, they have succeeded in poisoning you at every level, and it's hard to escape. It really is. That's why, despite some reservations I have about the Kennedy family, and there's really good things about them too, I was stoked to hear about the Maha stuff, just because, as a parent and trying to instill healthy attitudes about eating with my kids, I was like, this could be a really good thing for the country and ensure a stronger future. But it's kind of, I don't know what's going on in anything right now, just because it seems like the AI is taking over this administration. I'm not hearing so much from RFK Jr., and the things I have heard, which I do like, have not been codified yet, such as the banning gain-of-function research, which is great. But I think that was just an executive order. I don't know what's been codified. I do need to look that one up. But we'll see. We shall see. But we should get to some callers. I'd love to hear from you guys. I've missed it. I've missed being in this room. I've missed hearing your stories. So let's get it.
Let's get on the phone. All right. So I'm going to bring in our homie Corey from Break the Chains Media here for the first call. Corey, welcome back to the show.
Hello. Can you hear me all right?
Yes, sir.
We can. What's up, man?
What is up? Glad you guys had a good 4th of July weekend. Hopefully it sounds good. Back doing the live call-ins. This is great.
Yeah.
Lot to come back to. I'll tell you what, though, man. Holy cow.
Crazy.
I think you hit a lot. What you just said, Shane, about they're attacking us at every faceted level. Like it just, this all makes sense because we are dealing with a blood cult of thousands of years of these people planning. Like you said, they think in different time scales, and it's generational to them. We're almost like a resource. We are not even, we are subhuman. We're not even the same living space as these people, these elites, right? Which is why they're doing this to the food. They're doing this to the air. I mean, I've been talking about like the colloquial chemtrails since early 2000s. But now it's all in legislation. There's states passing legislation against it, while at the same time other government officials saying it doesn't exist. It's hilarious the way they double speak, right? But yeah, no, the Epstein thing, I mean, it's simply put, it's just very difficult when we hoped that I wanted Trump to be the colloquial bull in the DC China shop. You know what I mean? I wanted him to rip the place apart. Vengeance is best served cold, or whatever the saying is, right? But I think that, especially when you put these populist people like Cash and Dan that were speaking so vocally about the Epstein particularly, and trying to bring back accountability to government and government agencies, then you get the people that spoke loudest about it are now visibly shocked and silenced for the world to see them. Because like you said, their body language is it's plain as day. They can say whatever they want. We know what they're thinking. It's sad. Yeah, it's just a wild time we live in, and I think I want to resort, and like I had a rant on my stream last night about it. I couldn't even really formulate where I was coming from because I was pissed, I was angry, I was upset. I mean, you add all these things together, it's just so evil what they're doing, and the way that Trump handled it so unprofessionally, especially in that moment. Of course, we're still going to want to talk about this. This is the generational fight of our time, and I wouldn't say I'm a religious person, but I'm extremely spiritual. And when we look back at history about holy wars, about the vampire analogy. I mean, it literally, people spoke about vampires, but they were talking about the bloodletting of innocence in the middle of the night, and whether you call it loosh, whether you call it adrenochrome, whatever. But these were evil beings that stole innocence in the night.
Yes.
Same thing with werewolves. That's kind of how I see it. But we're in a multi-generational holy war, and I think it's against these dark entities that have now parasitically attached themselves to the most powerful upper echelons of our modern societies. And people like you and I and all these other like-minded people in the chat, I mean, we see it. And it's just, we have to focus on our family, focus on making sure that we're eating the best things we can. We're trying to be observant with our own lifestyles, being strong in our will and our spirit and our mind. And we can't, as much as I will never let the Epstein file case go. However, if you remain in that lower vibrational, just constant drone of negativity, and everything's fucked, like, it's not helpful for your spiritual growth as well. So it's a good thing to acknowledge it, but it's also important to make sure that your children are being taken care of. The ones you care about in your immediate circle are your topmost priority. And I think that is the best way that humanity can persevere through this, because we've got a tough road ahead. It's not going to get any better. Yep. Yeah. Making sure your children are strong and have a good head on their shoulders to inherit the future, which will always be crazy. We inherited a crazy future reality from our parents. Our parents inherited one from their parents. It's just it's unending, but it's also very beautiful. And something like these tragedies that happened over the weekend with the flooding, and that father who sacrificed himself for his kids, that like puts things in perspective. Like, that's what matters. You're a parent. You're here to steward those kids into the future at all costs, and that's all it really boils down to. So we want to stay aware of all the dark stuff going on, but we can't let it consume us, because then what's the point, right? We got to keep moving. Yep. Educate, and acknowledge, but you also have to empower yourself. And knowing is half the battle, but getting off your ass and doing something about it is the rest. That's kind of one of my mottos. But I think that we're all here wanting the best. My friend is an astrologer. I love talking to him because he brings in astrology. He's very good with reading, and some of you guys think it might be a little woo-woo, but when I speak politics and he speaks astrology, so many things correlate and line up. He says right now that from right now until August 9th. August 9th is kind of like a big turning point that he sees happening in the immediate future, about like whether it's a hot conflict or something is unveiled, or a something with the administration. And I think this Epstein thing might be something to do with it, but we're seeing a fundamental shift in how America is viewed, as not just America as its population, but on the world stage. So appreciate everything you guys are doing, and I'll keep calling back with more insights and positive affirmations for us truth tellers. We appreciate you calling in, dude. Have a good one.
Thanks, Corey.
You too.
I does feel like we are on the edge of some like new existential renaissance, like it was during lockdowns. People started waking up, seeing that they've been lied to. A lot of people I didn't expect to start looking at their world differently or the government differently. They did. It took a little while. I think something else is going to happen. I don't know what it is. I talk about the fake alien invasion. I talk about all this other stuff. But like, I was just when he was talking, I forgot all about how Megyn Kelly, I think it was her, who said, we haven't heard the last from Jeffrey Epstein. Like, what did that even mean? Is there new stuff coming out? Was that just fake too? But it does feel like something will be revealed, or I don't know.
He stoked a quote in me with what he was talking to, because he was basically, I don't think that he knew that he was referencing it, but he was referencing the indifference of good men. And one of my favorite quotes comes from the Boondock Saints movie,
great movie,
where a priest in that movie delivers a sermon, and in it he basically says that true evil lies not in the actions of evil men, but in the inaction of good men who fail to respond to injustice. And I believe that is a large part of what we're dealing with here. This is the time when we should be standing up and getting into action.
100%. People just get very comfortable, They don't even want to talk, like speak up. I'm in New York. I'm seeing old friends, and I noticed we're out eating and stuff and celebrating. It was my wife's birthday after this wedding, and of course, I start talking about some things, and everyone's like, "Oh no, people next to us are going to hear it." I'm like, I don't care, but like I'm used to talking about it now. But there's certain people they don't want to hear these things. They don't want to talk about it. They don't want other people to hear them talking about it. I think we are way past that. Like I said earlier, the world was just shut down a few years ago. Literally, they shut the world down. So I think it's okay to say your mind, to say whatever you got going on, because I think speaking about it, at least that's one part to do this. The voting, I've kind of lost any hope in voting. I really don't think, I do think there has been a sustained attack against the American people for, some people will say 1913, some people say 1870s or 60s. Wherever you think it is, I think that attack has been happening for 100 years, decades. And and that no president really has the power to change it. And we're watching Trump do it. Like tomorrow, I'm planning on talking about the assassination attempt in Butler, because that will be the anniversary on the weekend. So we'll miss it. I think about that all the time. I'm like, we still don't have any answers on any of that stuff. They tried blowing this guy's head off, just like the Zapruder film, we saw, whether it's real or not. We talked about on Monday. This could have been an insane event. It was an insane event, whether it happened or not. And we have answers on that. And it's just like, we're not supposed to talk about it. Trump doesn't even mention it much more. So I don't know. But all that to say is I agree with the last caller from Break the Chains, and his friend saying that something could be happening. I feel like we are on the precipice of some sort of change, some sort of revelation, whether it's real or not, and that's a whole other story, but it feels like we're getting somewhere.
One thing I can tell you right now, Shane, is change is definitely needed.
Change. Like Obama?
He got me there, guys. Holy shit, you saw it here live. Shane got me. Not that kind of change.
No, you mean real change.
We're talking about real change.
Real change? Oh, what's that? That's your guy Obama in Chicago.
He's not my guy just because we're from Chicago.
I voted for him. It was a huge mistake. I was such an idiot. Such a mistake. Man, oh man. It was like my dad voted Republican his whole life, but he voted for Carter. And I grew up hearing such a mistake. I was like, yeah, I'll never make that mistake, Dad. Then I voted for Obama. Whoopsies.
Yeah, whoops.
Big whoops. Big whoops. I'm sorry, but I admit it. I made a mistake. Let's get to another caller.
Let's get back on the phones now that we know that Shane voted for Obama.
Yeah, I know. It's terrible. Terrible.
All right. Let's bring in our buddy Gigi.
Yeah.
Gion.
Oh, hey, guys.
Welcome back, man. What's up?
What up?
Hey, thanks for taking my call.
Thanks for calling in.
I was a little worried you guys got sucked into the inverted world on Thursday.
But, we had a lot to talk about tonight because it's been, 5 days since we've been live, so we were a little riled up tonight, as you can see.
Yeah, no, I'm glad you guys had a good time and that you're back. And man, I think the change Brandon was talking about right now is more like Smash Mouth more than Obama.
It's funny because I got to see their guitar player play on a boat over the weekend in Chicago, so it's really funny that you bring them up.
Smash Mouth. That's amazing.
Real nice guy, actually. Real nice guy.
Rest in peace to the singer, though.
So I've got some questions for the Sarge.
Oh yeah, let's hear him.
He was saying a lot of stuff. He got pretty hyped up, but he was saying a lot of facts too. So I'm
going to write them down.
Sorry. What?
I'm writing your questions down for the Sarge. We'll ask him.
All right, cool. So we can't reach absolute zero, as far as I know. And from what I've taught myself, I think if we're able to reach absolute zero, we would then be able to stop time, because that would be the stopping of all motion at the atomic level. Mm-hmm. So my question is, do we as humans have the capability to reach absolute zero, which is the absolute minimum, or do we have the capability to exceed the speed of light? And any scientific information he could give would be greatly appreciated.
I think Sarge would probably tell you that we definitely have AU, because he on the show he discussed their ability to get to this other universe, Andromeda, in 14 seconds, or in, what did he say, 12 in case of emergency, if I'm not mistaken?
I think so, yeah.
He said 14 hours or 12 hours in case of emergency.
That's what it is, yeah.
What was it? Was it hours?
Might be hours.
Yeah.
Okay.
I listened twice, I'm pretty sure.
That's amazing. Oh, he's going to love that.
Yeah, so I think he'd probably say we have AU, and if not, we're pretty damn close to it, but that's just me. I can't speak for the Sarge, man. He's his own man.
We'll definitely ask him. But I think humans can probably do anything, which I don't know if they should. That's a whole other conversation. But I think we could probably do anything at some point.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he makes claims, definitive claims. It's fun to hear. He really, it was a journey listening to that. So, information that can back it up, I think those are the real fun nuggets. So my other question is, when he says we can time travel, there was one part in there where he says we can time travel through consciousness.
Meditation, I think you said, right?
Yeah, he mentioned that, and it was pretty brief. But so my question is, does he mean, when he talks about time travel, does he mean matter can be translocated through time, or only a consciousness?
That's a good question too.
That's a great question. Writing it down.
Yeah, I didn't get to that with him, but that's a really good question.
Yep.
I'd like to know that myself.
Yep. I'm sure he'll be back at some point. He had a wedding this week too, I guess. So
True.
We'll have to check in. I hope it's okay. I think was his fiance in the chat?
I don't know. I didn't see her. I kind of was watching chat.
I think
during the show.
It was Holly, I think. Yeah.
I didn't see her pop up in there, but I saw him pop in for a second. Sarge was definitely in the chat.
I hope everything's okay. I hope it was a good wedding.
They might not have even done it yet. He said it was, or that would have been the end of last week, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
It might have happened. I'll reach out. Yeah, we'll have him back on a little bit and ask him some of these questions. But that's a great question. Love it.
Cool. I have one more question.
Yeah.
This one is directed towards what Tim was talking about tonight in the AI revolution. And after I ask this, I'll let you guys go ahead and I'll just listen.
Okay.
So Tim talks about the AI revolution, and I agree that humans that have breaking thought, kind of like in the Matrix, the ones that can break out of the Matrix or whatever, will be the cancer cell within the AI organism. Mm-hmm. So Tim, he talks about this, and he's like asking people what next? So I'm asking him, what do we do? Do we become the John Connors and maintain our humanity at the risk of death, the death of humanity, or do we pretend for as long as we can, hoping we don't get caught before we die, or is it maybe a little bit of both? And I think Tim will say we will be the John Connors. At the moment of choice between survival and extinction, we will fight those who have that breaking thought. So my answer would be that Timcast IRL will become word of mouth. It'll become reduced, but that true information will always be true information. And that's the best option for survival. So those that are willing to survive will.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I reject it. I don't want to be a part of it, and I need to set that example for my kids. I don't want them to be a part of it. So I think we kind of have to become the John Connors, but not but if you're going to become John Connors, that does also mean at some point you end up using that technology against the technology, because John Connor in the future hijacks or hacks into a Terminator to send back to help. So it's the only way to defeat it, you have to use it. Now you have to find that sweet spot. But that might be the only way. And I will say also, it's funny, just came across my mind. Did you see that story recently about the AI that was found out to be just a bunch of Indians working behind the camera, the screen? Brandon, did you see that? No. It wasn't really AI. It was just Indians working and doing the answers.
I did not see this.
Yeah. It wasn't a big AI company. I don't think it was. But that kind of gave me hope. It's okay, maybe not all AI is actually as crazy as they say it is, but I do know they're using it in so many crazy things, especially in war, and entire countries like Saudi Arabia is going fully AI, that it's becoming inescapable, whatever it is. And we've seen AI kind of hide itself when it thought it was about to be reprogrammed or quote unquote killed. So it's unfortunately here now, and I don't think there's any getting rid of it. I don't think you can regulate it out of society. It's just like gain of function. Everyone's going to be doing it, no matter what it does to civilization. And everyone's going to say they have to do it now because, China's doing it, everyone else is doing it, we got to do it. So that sucks, but that is the future, and it's here, and we'll see. The only thing I can say we can do is since it's going nowhere, people need to have ethics. Now, we know people don't have ethics. A lot of people, I know a lot of us do, and I hope a lot of people watching have ethics. I know we're all flawed, but I think at large and people in power, there's not a lot of ethics, and these people are in control of these corporations. The AI companies have pretty much gained complete access to the Trump administration. They have a lot of power now, but they've had access to Biden as well, and Trump before that, and Bush. We had Teal with the Patriot Act and Palantir and data analytics since 2002. Then PayPal with Elon, who's been a defense contractor since 2001 or 2 with the spy satellites. So this thing has been growing for so long that a lot of people are just now realizing that we're like in this cage, this surveillance state, this prison state, and it's inescapable. So we're going to have to figure out a way to survive while in a dystopia. And it's going to get harder, I think. But I also think, for those of us who can unplug and try to have land, I think land is gold. Try to have a family that's as unplugged as possible, while also, not completely severing children from technology, because you want them to be able to understand it, like John Connor, to grow up and be able to hack a Terminator, even though John Connor in the movie was a young age hacking into ATMs and stealing money. I don't recommend that, but I want them to understand things and be smart and not be like cavemen while in the future.
Well, yeah, it's also required for them to advance beyond us, and we always want our next generation to be better than the last in order for humanity to continue, so we need to give them that opportunity.
They have to have it. And like my son knows I'm very distrustful of AI, but he knows I've tried it, right? And for research, I'll ask Grok a question and see how Google does, and I'll compare them, and I'll see when Grok is hallucinating. Well, yesterday was a different story altogether, but sometimes I'll ask Grok something about, say, presidents who've been shot at, and it leaves out entire answers. I'm like, why did you leave out Teddy? Why did you leave out Carter? And it's like a big mistake, but I asked it because I knew I knew the answers. But imagine a kid in high school now asking it, doesn't know the answers. Now they just think that's their reality, and they don't think to follow up. But my son was like, he wants to be a scientist. He has been saying this for years, and he likes robots. Who doesn't at that age when you're a boy? And he goes, I'm going to make a company that's robots for dads who hate robots. I'm like, all right, that's fair. Well, I'll take it. I'll take it. And hopefully it doesn't try to kill your father. But hope that's a good answer. Let's do another caller.
Yep, Gian, thanks for calling in. Did you want to shout out anything before we let you go?
Hey, thanks guys. I appreciate you taking my call. I'll just shout out my girlfriend, Alexa Smith. I love you, babe. And have a good night, guys.
All right, you too, man. Thanks.
You too.
See you.
Incredible. Love is in the air. Some weddings this weekend. We had so much. My phone's flying out of my pocket. My phone hates me now because it's a robot.
Like, what the hell was that?
It's like a rocket ship.
All right, really quick. Let's get some stuff out of the way.
Yes.
As always, like the show, subscribe to the show, follow it, share it with all of your friends. Go ahead, leave a comment in the chat for the algo. And we want to also shout out Timcast Culture War live shows coming up June 26th, July 2nd, July 9th at the Comedy Loft in DC. Tickets are on sale, $30 at dccomedyloft.com. Your boy should be at all three shows, so come out, say what's up, and we will chat all things weird. We are going to keep it rolling. I'm going to get to another caller, immedioso. I want to bring in Vince.
Sweet.
Vince, you are on the show. What is up?
Hey guys, how's it going?
Good. How are you?
Good. Are you?
Good. I am an alien contactee, or shall I say, ET contactee.
Let's hear about it. When did this happen?
Yeah. So I've been actually pretty skeptical throughout, most of my life about this stuff, ETs and all that, and yeah, I was listening to one of my spiritual counselors' videos. He was going on a tangent for a long time about his experiences with ETs, and I was skeptical and whatever, but throughout my experiences, I decided to give it a try. And the stuff that I experienced, man, it was just like so unbelievable. It was pretty intense too. So the contact method that I use is called CE5. I'm not sure if you've heard about it.
Tell us about it.
Yeah, Dr. Stephen Greer. He's pretty popular in the disclosure community. I learned that method from him. It's basically where you make contact with ETs using meditation, using consciousness, and kind of vectoring them, taking them to where you are, like your physical location. But beyond that, like most people go outside and they want to see UFOs, right? As like everyone does. But I was more interested in the connection there, the consciousness, the seeing if this thing is actually real. And over time, I kind of proved to myself that it was indeed real. Because a person can think of something or imagine that they're feeling or imagine that they're seeing something, kind of delude themselves. But for me, it went beyond that. It went to actual palpable feelings within my body.
Can you share details about where you were and where you went while doing the CE5?
Sure. Yeah. So I did it, instead of doing it like out on a beach somewhere or whatever, I did it within my home and in my office space, my meditation space, and so when this happened, I was kind of taken up to this like celestial world where it was like 5D. Essentially, they call it 5D. I'm not. The ETs haven't used that term, but yeah, what I saw was just, for example, one time they wanted to show me who I am in higher dimensions, higher levels of existence, I guess. And this ended up turning out to be like one of my past lives too, which was, they showed me, at first it started off with less intense experiences. So they showed me that I was a priest by just showing me some dude, but then they had later on revealed to me that I was a priest in Egypt, and I was the king of Atlantis's one of his main kind of guides, or like just guides, I would say.
Can you say like who is they?
Who is they? That age-old question. Who is they, though? Huh?
My favorite question.
It's so they are basically the ETs, and I've come to know one of them in particular, which is her name is Etana, and she is. I haven't gotten like a visual of her, but I can sense her presence because every time I meditate and I want to connect with her, she just surrounds my body and my aura with this just unbelievable loving energy. It's just like, it's palpable love. That's how I can describe it. And at other times it's been like an electrostatic kind of energy that made my hair stand up on end. And so I guess this would be my guides that I'm talking about here, which is from what I've come to find out, I've had multiple channeling sessions with my spiritual counselor. He's channeled them to me, and essentially they come from Pleiadians, they come from Arcturus, they come from Andromeda, all kinds of galaxies, all kinds of worlds. And one thing that I feel it's very important to note for the public just is to note that there is a difference between ETs and aliens.
What do you think that is?
So ETs, right? There are higher dimensional beings. So they're from what I know, they're not physical. They're not like they're not necessarily physical. Although they do transcend between dimensions. They can appear as balls of light and whatnot. On Stephen Greer's Disclosure Project Intelligence Archive (DPIA), he has photos of how they manifest, and it's really cool. But on the other hand, aliens are man-made from dark black op projects involving CIA, involving alien reproduction vehicles, involving like, for example, like they use essentially robotics to look like scary aliens kind of things.
So the ET would be like an avatar that's sent for a being that's not here, and an alien in your description. Is this what Stephen Greer says? I've never really listened much to Stephen Greer.
Yeah, this is what along the lines of what Stephen Greer says, and I've come to trust and believe him. Not only does he have witnesses, but he's also has nothing to gain. He's a retired doctor, and they've tried to kill him like multiple times.
Yeah,
it's pretty.
I have a hard time with him. I've listened to some of his interviews. I haven't done much of a deep dive, but there's some things. It's like a bunch of the whistleblowers. I understand the point of having nothing to lose, but I also think sometimes they're trying to sell me on a narrative that they want me to believe, and I'm curious why. And he was also part of the Bugosphere conference recently in Mexico, and now the Bugosphere to me is, I think, a hoax. But I've heard people who've talked about being contacted by these extraterrestrials who also talked about them being like an avatar. Do you consider like these, are those the Greys? Or you said Palladians, I guess?
Yeah.
And
yeah.
why do you think they, do they tell you why they're showing you what they're showing you?
They don't necessarily tell me why they're showing me what they're showing me, but the sense that I get is that it's all coming from a place of love. Not once have I ever had a negative encounter with these beings, which is what leads me to trust them. And I mean, I know that they would never do anything to harm me, and I know that I'm not interacting with a being that is deceptive or trying to get one over on me.
So, do you believe that they are? You mentioned Atlantis. Do you believe that they have confirmed the existence of Atlantis with these visions?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. I personally believe it is the reshot structure in Africa. I think it's called the Eye of the Sahara, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
That is, I believe, the most accurate place that Atlantis could be.
Interesting. And how long have you been doing this? When did this start?
So I've been doing it well over a year or so. I was very skeptical when I actually work with a spiritual counselor of mine, and he stumbled across Stephen Greer's stuff, and he's like, well, might as well just give it a try. What I got to lose? So he started doing this, and then he was having some pretty wild experiences, and I was like, I don't know about that. But then, I was like, okay, I'll, try it out and see. And so I've been doing that over the last year or so, maybe even 2.
And how many different lives have they shown you?
They have shown me They say it's pretty complicated. They've only really showed me this life of the priest, and they say that I have, I've decided to reincarnate and beat myself up because of what happened during the Younger Dryas, the fall of Atlantis, the fall of the world, the Great Flood, and all that. So apparently, I was carrying a lot of guilt over that. But, and I decided to, go into the reincarnation cycle. Not that I think it's a trap, but, so yeah. And then, it was ultimately my decision to do that on a higher level.
And you do believe that you have lived multiple lives?
Oh, yeah, undoubtedly. Yeah, this reincarnation kind of thing is, I'm actually, an astrologer. I do. I teach yoga. I teach qigong. So, the Hindu traditions and the Vedic traditions. I think they're pretty accurate with reincarnation.
Do you think? Or have they ever told you anything about the future? Do they see anything coming that they tell you?
Indeed, yes, they did. So they say they always talk in like oh, soon, this will be coming soon, and it's like, okay, when, get out my calendar. Okay, when? Is it tomorrow? Is it the next day? But they've said that humanity is coming across a 5D ascension. I've heard that it'll be coming through what quote unquote solar waves of love, which leads me to believe that these solar flash, these solar flares have been kicking off. I think it's a solar maximum right now. So, or at least in the past year or so. So yeah, they've told me that essentially we're going to be leveling up. There's going to be a split in the Earth, not physically, but frequency-wise.
What does that do?
And yeah.
What does that mean?
So essentially, with frequencies, you have, if you ever looked at through a crystal, you see a facet of the crystal, you see light coming through, and it's in different spectrums. It's like it's going to be like that, where the Earth's frequency, we have the Schumann resonance. That's going to be leveled up into, like, I guess, what they told me is 3 separate Earths. So we'll have a lower kind of dystopian Earth. And this is all depending on what people choose. It's all by choice. They're not forcing anybody. They're not, whatever. But it's all by choice. So there's going to be a lower, dystopian Earth. There's going to be a slightly improved Earth to Earth, and then a higher 5D Earth where, quote unquote 5D. I'm kind of drawing that conclusion, where it's basically just open contact. There's free energy. I mean, we already know that there's absolutely free energy. It already exists.
Shout out Nikola Tesla.
Yeah.
Yep. Well, I appreciate the phone call. Solar flares of love sounds better than solar waves of hate, I guess. So Let's hope. Thank you for that.
Thanks for calling in.
Yeah, thanks.
Have a good night.
Appreciate it.
Solar waves of love?
I think that's what she said.
We'll see. I don't know. They keep telling us it's going to be an internet apocalypse from the solar stuff, but I feel like that's their story. When I say they in that sentence, I'm talking about the corporate press. They've been selling us on this idea of the solar flares going to take out the internet, and they're calling it the internet apocalypse. But I think they just turn it off whenever they want.
Well, the other half of that coin is they're also trying to shut down the sun. So, I mean... Right.
Bill Gates literally wants to take away the sun. You can't have the sun. This is like the sun Nazi, like
and
the
that
soup Nazi.
crazy mullet-haired kid in the suit that says he loves the taste of blood said the same thing. They're messing with ways to block out sun rays and reverse that. So,
everything's fine. Everything's fine. Everything's great.
Yeah, I'm fine. You're fine. It's fine. We're all fine. Everything's fine. Are we still talking about Epstein?
Before I lose all my hair, I'm going to grow out a mullet. That'd be fun. And I'll wear a suit, and I'll start a cloud seeding company to be a competition with that guy and Peter Thiel. I think that's my future.
A mullet competition.
Yeah. I can probably still grow hair back there, so we'll try.
Man.
Oh, let's get another caller.
Yeah, let's go to Chris Quinn, because I believe we did not get to Chris on Thursday.
Sweet.
Chris, you're on Averted World Live. What's up?
Hey, give me 1 second to mute this.
Sure.
All right, all set.
Welcome to the show.
What's up?
I've got two brief. One's very brief, and then one short story about the 4th of July, 2020.
Awesome.
So, you guys a couple of weeks ago were talking about conversing with dolphins and whales, and there's one thing about their brains that people don't seem to realize, and that's they have kind of like a synesthesia where their auditory and visual centers are mixed because they echolocate.
Interesting.
The other thing that they can do, though, is that while we would take a photo to show somebody an image of something that we've seen, they can just recreate that image in sound and share that experience.
Ooh, that's wild.
So there was a story of a whale that got rescued, and it took the time to come back and take a close look at every person that was on each boat that came to rescue that whale. Whoa. And I believe it was doing that to share that story across the oceans with the other whales. And so they would all recognize that person on sight because of the images that it shared.
That's incredible. That's like the end of Anchorman, right? When the dog's telling the bears that he saved.
I never saw it.
Oh, great movie. But that's interesting to think of sharing an image through sound.
Yep.
And that might be why
they kind of describe things to each other, and we kind of can get a visual, but they can get the like photocopy.
Right, through like the frequency just beamed into them.
Yeah.
That's wild. It's also like how I think it's crows that are learning different things, and they're not sure how crows in different parts of the world are learning things around the same time, like throwing certain like nuts into the traffic so cars roll over it to open, and they're just studying crows doing very strange things, and then like very quickly crows all over the place are doing similar things. The animals are rising up.
Oh, we'll see. And then on to the 4th of July 2020.
Yeah.
So I live in Florida, and from my house, I can look out my front. Well, I step outside my front door and look just to the right of my neighbor's house, about 20 to 40 degrees in the sky at the horizon. That's where I watch rocket launches from Cape Canaveral. So I'm on the West Coast, and they're over on the East Coast, and I see them in the same spot. They go up about 20 degrees, and then they start to level out going eastward away from me, so they just kind of pause in the sky and fade away. Well, it was like 8:15 at night or so during the 4th of July, so fireworks are going off everywhere, and I look over there, it was 2020, and I see this rocket launch happening. And I enjoy rocket launches, so I know exactly what I'm looking at. It takes, a couple of minutes to get to its apogee, and then slowly fades away. I've seen it 1,000 times happen at Cape Canaveral. The only thing is there was no announced rocket launches, so I didn't know it was coming. I was just surprised. I was outside looking at fireworks when I saw it. So then I started looking it up to see, hey, did I miss one? What is this launch? And it's not there. There is no government launch or Cape Canaveral launch listed for anything happening 2020 on the 4th of July. I did look at it, and there was a launch in New Zealand earlier that morning, that failed. But that's on the other side of the world. I wouldn't have seen it from where I'm at.
That's weird.
Yeah. So that was my 4th of July story I was trying to tell before the 4th. But
what do you think? What do you think you saw?
It was probably just a classified military launch.
Right.
It's interesting that they do them and not tell anyone, and it doesn't get reported on because, like I said, I'm on the west coast of Florida, and I can see it from here. I'm just surprised there was no story about it at all.
Did anyone else see it that you talked to?
Well, that's why I figured I'd share it here on the thing to know if anybody else watches launches that might have seen it as well.
July 4th, 2020, 8:15-ish p.m. If anyone
it
out
was
there,
around 8:15.
Anyone out there was in that area on that time, on that day, if you saw anything strange that wasn't a rocket launch but appeared to be one, you should hit us up. Then we can corroborate this story, try to get some answers.
And yeah, that's my stories. So.
Awesome. Well, thanks, man. I appreciate that.
Thanks, Chris.
Yep. Yeah.
Later.
You know, he actually had me with the animal communication thing, because you see, you know, you ever feed like a deer or a squirrel or something, and 1 or 2 days later it comes back and there's 5 squirrels or 5 deer sitting in your lawn just looking at you. These guys don't have a language, but they have a language. They do have a way of communicating these things to them, to each other and things like that. You know, dolphins using like echolocation, or bats using sonar. I mean, it's crazy. There's also out there something that I saw a couple weeks ago that I was going to bring up but never got to. Whales are using circular bubble nets, actually blowing these bubbles in circular figures and patterns, and choosing appropriate depths to do it at in order to create these pockets or these nets of bubbles that are actually trapping smaller prey so that it's easier for them to eat. And they say that is not an inherent trait, that is actually learned. And I was just talking to you about this recently, Shane. The only way that I can think that they learn that is from engines and outboard motors and stuff on boats going overhead. They've noticed that these patterns that these engines create circling around fishermen, stuff like that, are actually trapping things for them to eat. So they've learned how to create their own patterns like this. And they believe that is also what whales will use to communicate with us one day, which is also crazy to think about. So good points there by our caller.
Yeah, great point. I love that. And, you know, we were talking about the whales, scientists studying the whales and dolphins, like the caller mentioned, to see if they could learn things so they could talk to extraterrestrials at one point. But, you know, like, I think these things are already aliens. They're weird. Octopus are weird. Whales are weird. I love them. But they're up to something. And that idea of the dolphin projecting an image through frequency to other dolphins is fascinating. And like what you're saying about the whales kind of learning from us and from the boats to do their thing, it's fascinating. And who knows what else they've learned. It's wild. I love it. I listened to The Warmth just the other day, actually, after we talked about it a few weeks ago. It has the whale song in it. It's still a great song.
It's one of my favorite songs to play on drums.
Yeah,
I absolutely love that song. That whole album is actually amazing to play. Like, it's so relaxing. You can just kind of fade out and just jam, and I love that album. Anything from those guys I'm in love with, but whatever.
Agreed.
I digress.
Yep.
Let's get back to the phones. We still got a little bit of time left. Let's go to Carol. Carol, you are on Inverted World Live. If you could unmute and say what's up.
Hello?
Hello.
Oh, hey, guys.
What's going on?
Thank you for taking my call.
Of course.
Thanks for calling in.
Oh, man. So much to talk about with the Epstein files, man. It's crazy.
Yep.
I just wanted to mention some things. I've been doing a lot of research on it over the past few years. And Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton are cousins. And their great-grandfather, going back 14 generations, was the king of Great Britain.
Perfect. Tell us more.
So, like the whole thing with the occult, the color of the occult is purple, right? So, like, Democrat Party, it's blue. Republican Party is red.
Yep.
So you put red and blue together, that makes purple. And, like, those are the only two parties that ever have power in Congress. So it makes sense, and like the whole thing with the vampires, the whole occult ritual is to harvest and consume adrenochrome. And yeah, I mean, it's just mind-blowing stuff. I mean, anyone else I talk to about it, they just think I'm crazy.
No, it's been reported on. How does that change the way you view these people? Like, are they both just installed puppets in your mind?
Well, they're Freemasons, I mean, there's factions within the occult. They fight for power.
Yep.
They've been fighting for power and control for thousands of years. But I think the Civil War brought those two factions within the United States together, kind of consolidated power between them. And yeah, man, it's just crazy stuff.
So how is this affecting us today, you think? Because do we know Trump's a Freemason?
Oh yeah. He's a Freemason of the Scottish Rite.
Okay, I haven't looked. The Freemasons are something I have not done a lot of research of. I know there's a lot of presidents who've been Freemasons.
To the occult,
Yeah.
Like the reason why we send all this money and weapons to Israel, like if you dissect the name Israel, it's literally 3 ancient deities: Isis, Ra, and El.
Right.
And they all worship Baal or Baal, whatever you want to call it, and Moloch. They sacrifice kids. And it was all, they created these gods thousands of years ago, I think, because ancient civilizations would they would, like, one civilization would have access to different resources, and then they would create gods that they would worship to symbolize whatever resource they had that made them strong,
Of course.
And then, like, the Greeks, when they invaded Egypt, the Phoenicians, they basically took all those ancient Egyptian gods and renamed them, and man, it's crazy. I'm actually talking to you guys right now.
No, it's awesome. I'm loving this.
I'm feeling a little anxious because I've been sitting waiting to get on the call for like an hour. But
I appreciate you waiting.
Yeah,
do you think Trump is a bad guy? Because, like, conversations I've been having lately with people talking about Epstein stuff, it's going back and forth between Trump is not a bad guy, he's surrounded by bad people, and he's always been a bad collaborator. And the other one is Trump is a bad guy, and we're just now seeing it. Like, knowing what you're just saying and how you feel about all that stuff, where are you with that?
I think it's all been planned out long before. I think they're all, like you mentioned earlier, they're the elites. Trump is one of them. He's within the Freemasons. I mean, if you understand the symbolism, I mean, it's literally all over our money. It's all over the government buildings. It's hidden in plain sight.
Yeah, every time you enter a town, like, you see the Freemason signs. The signs are on, the doors in towns. It is everywhere. It's weird that that is a rabbit hole I have not gone down. Like, I know so little about them. I know how much power or influence they've had over the country in terms of, like, architecture, like what's in DC, how many presidents have been Masons. Then I've known Masons who are just, it's nothing, right? And they don't see anything weird about it. And then I know other Masons who either are still in it or they left, and they said, it's really weird, and there's really bad Masons and there's really good Masons. So I just hear all that stuff, but haven't really gone too deep. I do have somewhere, back from my furniture moving days, I have a pamphlet of how to, it's like a Mason pamphlet for a funeral and all their weird rites they do. It's pretty crazy stuff.
Yeah, they have really weird rituals. Like, when you look into it, it gets weirder and weirder.
Yeah, I know about some of them. I don't, like, is the whole thing about, like, are they supposed to desecrate the Bible, some of them? Have you heard that one?
Yeah, well, I mean, they're worshiping demons, so
Is it? Because there's some Masons I've talked to who said that they don't believe that's the case, that maybe some others do, but they believe, the ones who I have talked to who don't think there's weird stuff within the Masons say that you just have to believe in a God, but the God is not really defined, I suppose. So when you say they actually worship demons, this is like what you were saying earlier with Baal or Moloch and
those are the two demons, Baal and Moloch,
which are in the Bible. It's
within
ancient.
the occult. One worship Baal and the other worship Moloch.
And that is child sacrifice, right?
Correct. Yep.
And so
harvest and consume adrenochrome via little children.
So is there...
They terrify the children.
Yep.
The adrenal glands produce more adrenaline than it gives you like similar effects to taking LSD.
And for our sharp-eyed readers of this show, you might be thinking of something like Frazzle Drip as we're talking about this, especially since we were talking about old Hillary Clinton and Huma Abedin, who was just recently married. Or do you think there's any good Masons? Is that a thing?
Yeah, there's like the 33 degrees of the Masons, and the higher degree you are, the more access you have to more information about what Masonry is and all that. Yep. So I do think that there are good people within the Freemasons that aren't fully aware of what it actually is, and they're just not privy to the same information that the higher ups have, because they're highly secretive. Like trying to get into the Freemasons, you have to like learn a bunch of different stuff. You got to like recite all these, whatever
rituals.
Sayings.
Yeah, I've seen those. Yeah.
Yeah. It's weird stuff, man. Weird stuff. And like, it all makes sense. Like, it all adds up. Like, why do we send all this money and weapons to Israel? Why are we so infatuated with Israel and keeping Israel as a state,
Yeah, no, it makes no sense to me. And I think a lot of Christians have been duped into thinking they have to protect the actual government or side with the government of Israel, which is antithetical. It's become antithetical to America and our own freedom. Totally bizarre. But when it comes to the Freemasons, we're speaking of Israel. A lot of people will say Israel's actually our biggest enemy and has infiltrated America. I tend to think it's a bunch of them. It's not just one. So it could be Israel, but it could also be like the Masons, although I haven't really given them much thought. But it could also be the KGB. It could be just straight up demons. It could be people who say they're Christian and they're not really Christian. I see there's a whole bunch of boogeymen. But when it comes to the Masons, for you, do you see them as being some of the like quote unquote architects, for lack of a better word, of so much of what's been going on in the country up to today?
Oh, absolutely.
And do you see that Trump is fulfilling this prophecy of the Masons? Like, I guess before we can get to that, do you think his, because I don't know this and I'm wondering if you do, was his uncle a part of the Masons, the one he talks about who was at MIT?
I'm not sure.
I want to look that up because like his access to Tesla and how Tesla fits into all this is very interesting to me.
Yeah. So interesting thing about Tesla is I believe that Elon Musk bought Twitter to cover up his own tracks because there was the Epstein list got leaked on Twitter like 3 years ago. I don't know if it was the real list or not.
I remember that.
I saw it, but there was a bunch of photos and information leaked on Twitter about Elon's ties to Epstein, and I think that he bought Twitter to basically, wipe it all out. And if you look at the X logo, if you mirror the X logo, you can Google it right now. It literally creates a pyramid with the 33rd degree compass, which is the symbol of the Freemasons.
That's right. I have seen people do that. I always was suspicious. In the very beginning, I was like, oh, it's cool Elon's going to buy this, even though I wasn't a huge fan of him then, just because Twitter sucked before. It sucks for different reasons now. It's certainly a little better in some regard, but still freedom of speech isn't really a thing. But I was always like, there's probably something else he's up to. I assumed it was because he was trying to monopolize the collective consciousness and feed it into Grok and to Optimus so he could fly his rocket to Mars. But I could see him also wanting to cover up stuff. What better way than to own it, own this platform and censor certain things, which he has certainly been suppressing certain voices and certain topics. And you see things fluctuate depending on his mood, whether it's really him or not, who knows. But I do feel like something strange is going on there. But yeah, so you started this with Hillary and Trump being cousins. I looked it up. That is a thing that was being reported on some years ago. And do you think? So we're in this Trump narrative now, which to me is not so good. And you think that's all, for lack of a better phrase, considering all the Q stuff, part of the plan? And where do you think this goes?
Well, considering the fact that Trump discontinued the penny this year, so next year they're not going to be making pennies anymore. They're trying to bring more control over people. I think we're going to have the same type of system that China has with like the WeChat and Alipay, where you do everything through your phone, so they can control everything. They can just shut you down, like you and I right now are having this conversation, and next year if we try to, they can just shut us out of our bank accounts, and then we're screwed.
Well, let me ask you this: do you think people need to be controlled?
No.
And why or why not?
Well, I mean, people are unpredictable, but there's good and bad people, but I think there's more good people than there are bad people. So I think controlling good people from being able to stop bad people from doing bad things would be a bad thing, right?
Absolutely.
Yep. Everyone's freedom and free will is more important than trying to control everyone. But it's interesting to consider, because those are the questions that people in power are literally having. I mean, we're watching China; they've been doing it, and I agree with you. I think we're not far from that world. This is what a lot of these big companies are trying to build around us. This is why, from day 2, I was pretty much checked out of the administration because of the AI stuff. I think they're trying to build some very bad things around us. People can make the argument being like it's not that bad, and I'd like to hear a better argument about it, because I'm not that convinced it's not that bad. But yeah, I agree. I think it's going in a bad direction, and the social credit system is being built around us as we speak. It's kind of already there, honestly.
Yeah, and like I think the vaccines, I invested some money into Pfizer and Moderna back in 2020, and I figured out that they were the biggest investors they took all their capital to invest in 5G technology. So I went down that rabbit hole, started doing research, and figured out that the vaccines had nano particles in them, which are activated through certain frequencies, that short microwave frequency, which 5G is short microwaves. What makes people more controllable, basically, is what this nanotechnology does. And I even did a book report in the 5th grade back in 2005 on nanotech, and like what the possible like how it could be implemented into different uses, different applications. And
I actually just talked to investors this weekend, not for me, but for people who invest in that stuff. I was giving my whole spiel on why I hate AI, and they were literally just telling me about the nanotech and what you're talking about in certain things. I'm like, I don't like that. How did you know to invest in that in 2020? Were you following Pelosi?
I thought, now we're having a pandemic, they're going to be making these vaccines, so why not invest in the companies everyone's going to be taking the vaccines, right? So I thought it was a good idea to invest in them, and then I found that out. So yeah, man, I think it's all pre-planned. It's everything is going step by step. I mean, even like the assassination attempt on Trump was faked, in my opinion, because like there's no way on God's green earth that the Secret Service or the county sheriff, all the law enforcement there wouldn't have someone up on that rooftop. Like they scope out the whole area, the whole perimeter gets scoped out like months before they even bring the president to that area or whoever is going to do a rally there. And they have protocols to keep snipers at certain positions. They told the snipers to not fire until someone fired a shot. So the whole thing was just weird. And then, like,
that was the first day.
To a bunch of podcasts of like ex-Secret Service, ex-snipers, ex-military, and they were all saying, yeah, it doesn't make any sense. Like, that would never happen in the real world.
I believe that was the first day snipers were actually with him at a rally.
Yeah.
The whole thing's weird. We're going to get into that tomorrow. Well, I appreciate the call, man.
Yeah, thank you for letting me call. Let me speak to you guys.
Definitely. Have a good night.
Thanks for calling in.
You too. Thanks, guys.
Oh, boy. Well, for those we've missed, we will pick back up tomorrow. We're here at 10 o'clock Eastern Time, 10 p.m. Eastern Time. Brandon's taking down names. We're going to talk about what we just talked about there. I'm still very curious about what happened in Butler. I have lots of questions, and we have, I don't think, any new answers, and it's almost been a year, and there has been a so-called investigation. It's weird. I'm thinking about a lot more in the past weeks because of what happened in Idaho with that crazy killer. There's some updates with that too. Maybe we'll weave that into tomorrow as well. But it's weird. It's so weird that we just don't talk about it anymore. They tried to assassinate Trump right in front of us. And yeah, I've got thoughts on that. I think we all do.
I do too.
So that'll be tomorrow. I think the anniversary is the 13th, but since we won't be here, we will discuss that tomorrow. And whatever else happens, who knows what's going to happen between now and tomorrow night. But it's good to be back in the room. Brandon, where can they find you?
You guys can find me, as always, as Brando Inverted on X and on Insta. And as always, do not forget to stay weird. It's great to be back.
Yeah, Brandon did a great job on IRL. He filled in for me on Monday, last minute. They knew, Serge knew. But
we had another Serge moment, ladies and gentlemen, and I was actually, a little tidbit, I was on my way over here to make sure that the first pre-record would go off without a hitch, and I got a phone call saying that I immediately needed to come back to IRL studio and get into the third chair. So thanks, Serge, for the invite. I'm sure if there was anybody else available, they would have went with them, but I appreciate the guys letting me on the show.
It was awesome to see you on IRL. Love it. And I appreciate you guys tuning in to the pre-records. Those were a lot of fun. Yesterday's was certainly wild. I know you guys have lots of thoughts about it. I've heard all of them all day long. And he'll be back, to talk about more things, I enjoy hearing from him and hearing your thoughts about him. But tomorrow we're going to talk about Trump, talk about Butler, and whatever else happens. You guys can find me online at Shane Cashman. Again, I just want to thank everybody for calling in tonight and for being patient. And hopefully, if we didn't get you in today, we'll get you tomorrow. And yeah, feels good. But we'll see you tomorrow. Later. Peace.